Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Well, I have been telling you this for so long, and that is, there's no such a thing as a moral army. Why? Because the army is made out of, or armies are made out of human beings. And the human beings have feelings, pains, preferences, different levels of morality and virtue. You can't control each and every baboon that's going to fight for your country. They will act according to their instinctual gifts that Mother Nature endowed us with. And maybe aside from the Israeli army, which we know is perfect, every other army is imperfect. Why? Because people, as I said, have desires, pains, and all that. We are imperfect as we are. So what happened? I have here about 6 topics, or 5 topics, let's put it this way. The first one, armies, occupying armies in a war. Some members of the armies will engage in awful acts like civilian killings, kidnappings, rapes, and all that, or raping. We have the United States of America and Japan. Do you know where I'm going with this? Well, another US Air Force member charged with kidnapping and raping Japanese schoolgirl. And this is from today, the 27th of June 2024. Remember, we are allies. We occupy them. We're not at war anymore. And things like this happen. Now imagine when, let's say, the Ukrainians, and I'm picking the Ukrainians and I'm going to take the Russians, the Ukrainians take over a village after, their comrades were killed and bombarded for, 2.5 years and so on. What do you think they will do? Some will do what's right, but some will do something very bad. I told you. Now, this is one article I'm going to discuss. The second one, the first article I picked from CNN. The other one I picked from the Telegraph. And Japan, please pay careful attention to the words used here. Japan condemns, and I'm in quotation marks, intolerable U.S. Army after soldier charged with rape of teenager. So Japan condemns intolerable U.S. Army. And we're going to give you a history of other incidents where members of the U.S. Army conducted themselves in a animalic way. Now, if the Russians take over a Ukrainian village, don't think that they will behave like perfect as the Israelis behave, okay? They will do what bad humans do when they lose control or when their instincts take over their training, self-training. Next article. Reuters. Russia is revising its nuclear doctrine, the Kremlin says. You know what it is? Russia does not have a preemptive strike in its doctrine. The US has. So if, let's say, I'm right here and there's a guy over there coming towards me, say I'm in the USA, right? Where you can have, okay? And I'm right here and the gun is over there, the guy, I don't know, he comes towards me from, let's say, 50 meters. He comes running. And I think that he's going to cause me harm because of his behavior. Or maybe he's going to talk with someone and I think it's going to be an imminent attack on me and my family. Then, by the US doctrine of preemptive strike, I can help them stop there. The Russians don't have that one. Now they're working at it. Why? Maybe to tell these guys in a veiled way, back the f off. We are going to use it. I don't think they will, but hey, next article. We're going to discuss all these things slowly. NBC News, Putin is revising Russia's nuclear doctrine due to, and I'm quoting, current realities. What realities? They want to destroy us. Next one, New Voice of Ukraine, and this is an imbecilic title. I picked it just to show you how the baboons will just bite at this. New Voice of Ukraine from June 27th, 2024. Russia stripping Zaporozhye nuclear power plant of equipment, Kiev says. Now, who owns Zaporozhye nuclear power plant? Russia. Why would they do that? Do they plan to leave? They just loot and leave? Have you seen the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant? Go and look on maps and you're going to find it. And you tell me how much can you take and then to rebuild another one? That's the biggest, if I remember, in Europe or something. So that's imbecilic. Why would the Russians do this? If they really want to take care of it, they will do something else. But what? Stealing what? Bolts and nails? And the last article comes from Business Insider, and it says that Russia's oil and gas revenue is reportedly set to boom 50% this month. So more sanctions because they are at the 14th round of sanctions against Russia to destroy Putin's war machine, remember? And this guy's gonna have a boom by Business Insider this month of oil and gas. Who's losing? Are you in the Western world? All right? But hey, we're gonna have sun and wind and farts. That's what we're gonna have. And maybe we're gonna go back to caves. I can remember someone said in a conversation I had yesterday with this person about France and about Paris and blah blah blah, and he was very happy about there were not going to be air conditioning at this in the Olympics in France. There will not be over there because they try to clean energy and save energy. And I was thinking, but it's going to be hot as hell. Well, clean energy will save the nature. So I said, well, why don't they just, let's say, organize the Olympics somewhere near some caves and house everyone in caves? That's cool enough in caves. Keep them in caves, my friend, and you're gonna save a lot of energy, while others are gonna live as they should, as civilized. And I said, you know what? I want to be civilized. I want to be civilized. You don't want to live as you want, but democracy is up. I will make another video on that one, telling you how weak people love democracy and strong people don't love democracy. And I will explain. So let's start with the first article. U.S. Air Force member charged with kidnapping and raping Japanese schoolgirl. Awful. Japanese prosecutors have charged a U.S. I don't think we're going to... Oh, we found him. I have an interesting name. Americans who have brains. By the name, just remember. Japanese prosecutors have charged a U.S. Air Force member with allegedly, they just charged him, allegedly with kidnapping and raping an underage girl just before Christmas last year. Police confirmed to CNN on Wednesday. Brennan R.E. Washington, not the third, Washington, 25, was indicted on March 27th on charges of, and I'm quoting, non-consensual sexual intercourse and I'm quoting, indecent kidnapping, a court spokesperson in Naha, Okinawa capital, told CNN, adding that the U.S. military handed the serviceman over to the Japanese authorities on the same day. Washington was released on bail and transferred to the Kadena U.S. Air Base in Okinawa for custody according to spokes. Let me see if I find this guy's picture. I just want to see this guy's face. All right, and then I'm going to go to the Telegraph, and the Telegraph will tell us previous incidents of this kind. Brennan Division, no, I don't see him here. Anyway, maybe you can do that and find out. Next one. Japan condemns intolerable U.S. Army after soldier charged with rape of teenager. Do you remember before I think before the Japanese, I think, signed the documents on that destroyer. I think it was parked at in Yokohama Bay, if I remember correctly, in September 2nd, 1945, when they unconditional surrender. Then Hirohito, the Emperor of Japan, because the Americans wanted unconditional surrender after they dropped 2 atomic bombs. I would say that's a war crime on 2 civilian cities, but hey, okay. And they wanted that the emperor to disavow his divine, how do you call it? Divine, being divine. Okay, I'm not going to hold you here until this brain works properly. So, you know, the Japanese thought that the emperor is the deification of whatever on the world. He's a deity, the emperor, and they wanted to make sure that he or they, the emperor, will say that to the Japanese he's not divine or something like this, which was something that the Japanese fought the hardest out of everything else, because you're going to tell people who believed in, I don't know, in Shinto, right, and not only, and then Buddhism, they thought that he's the, you know, the deity on the part of the deity and so on. I can't remember, I knew all these things, but hey, can you say white hair? All right. So, and drop balls. So, anyway, and Hirohito had a radio and did it my way. So he said on his radio program, whatever, first time when the Japanese nation heard the voice of the deity on the radio was when Hirohito said that we should se supportum insupportabilul. That was when I read that. So to bear the unbearable, tolerate the intolerable. Again, after how many years? 70, 80 years or something? And they're still there. They're still there. Now, as I said, that it's not representative of the US military. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just pointing out those guys who put the virtuosity thing shit here. You can apply that to each and every army except one. YouTube, do you like that? All right. All right, so let's see what these guys are saying. Osage, condemn intolerable and anti-base sentiment in Okinawa. Okinawa accounts for 0.6% of Japan's land mass. It is 1995 gang rape of 12-year-old girl by 3 U.S. soldiers in a southern island region prompted widespread calls for a rethink of the 1960 pact that outlined the legal status of Japan-based U.S. military personnel. Well, that was then, my friends, and a nationwide poll by broadcaster NHK in 2022 found 80% of Japanese consider the current disproportionate distribution of US forces wrong or somewhat wrong. But the government, who these guys elect, keeps them over there. Why? They're under occupation. 80%, remember that imbecile Macron? 80% of the French, according to polls, wanted no pension reform, which was, getting from 62 years of age, the retirement age, to 65. 80%, around 80%, 82, 80 something. And what did Macron do? He's just grabbed it from the, the parliament, Grand Assembly of France, took it, signed it, and say, I decide. And that was all legal and constitutional. That tells you the system over there is one man. All right, and by the way, Macron also, how do you call it? Not the dissolution, the parliament, the Grand Assembly. He said, you know what? Bye-bye. I close you. Close your business. Doesn't that sound as a tyrant to you? And I have more than that for your French Macron. All right. So next article. Russia is revising its nuclear doctrine, Kremlin says, and we're going to use the NBC News, their deal with, the Reuters. Reuters sounds better. Russia, the world's biggest nuclear power, has started updating its nuclear doctrine, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said on Monday, citing an earlier statement by President Vladimir Putin, and I'm quoting. President Putin has said that work is underway to bring the doctrine into line with current realities, end quote. Peskov told the briefing without elaborating. All right, it says a senior member of the Russian parliament said on Sunday that Moscow could reduce the decision-making time stipulated in official policy for the use of nuclear weapons if it believes that threats are increasing. That means faster. So before Putin opens that little briefcase and pushes click, clock, and there's some other ones over there approving to click, clock, by the time that the missiles fall on Moscow. So they say, well, we're going to make it like, hey, how about only I can do that? Click. We'll find out. All right, let's see what else these guys are saying. Putin said last month that Russia might change its official nuclear doctrine, setting out the conditions under which the weapons could be used. The war in Ukraine has triggered the biggest confrontation, PPP, and they don't tell us. Next one. Russia stripping Zaporozhye nuclear power plant for equipment, Kiev says. Imbecilic, I think, statement. All right. Eduard Atakishchev, the Moscow-appointed deputy director of the occupied Zaporozhye nuclear power plant, is allowing Russian occupiers to remove surplus equipment from the power plant. To do what with it? Build another one? Ukraine's National Resistance Center reported on June 26th. According to NRC, is responsible for signing fraudulent documents that allow the transfer of surplus property from Zaporozhye nuclear power plant to Russia. That is efficiency. If it's a surplus, you take it because it just sits over there in the sun. I don't know. But anyway, I think these guys try to make something big out of nothing. He is also responsible for the accommodation of Russian troops at the facility. Why would they do that? Well, someone else wants to attack or wants to take over. Who's that? The owners. Who are the owners? Right, next one. Next one is Business Insider. Russia's oil and gas revenue is reportedly set to boom 50% this month. 50. And they are under sanctions. Russia's energy trade likely boomed last month despite sanctions. Oil and gas sales were on track to reach $9.4 billion per calculation from Reuters. That's a 50% increase from the prior year, a sign Moscow's energy trade is getting on despite restrictions. So what should you do? Reverse it. That's the logic, right? Reverse your restrictions, they will drop. No? Oh my God. Hey, I'm not crying here for those guys. I'm not talking about the Russians. The guys who told the other guys to impose sanctions. That's the way it worked. Because they're making billions of dollars as well. I'm talking about the banks. I'm talking about the military-industrial complex and their energy, LNG and all that from the West, mainly United States of America. So these guys are making a kill. See how much ExxonMobil did. I made some videos and some articles more than a year ago about ExxonMobil, about Amoco and others. Go and Shell and others. Go and find out they made record profits during the war. Why? Because they sanctions these guys. They kicked them out. They came in, so there's the revenue, right? And then the Russians moved to other places where these guys cannot compete. And that's it. It's just we reverse. The problem is these guys unleashed something that we're going to hurt you and I. The gas and the oil and gas will be more expensive in our countries than if we would buy it from the Russians. Why? Because those guys cannot compete with the Russian gas. That's why. How do you think the Americans bring the natural gas, liquefied natural gas? On boats. You know how that's more expensive than a pipe? So there you have it. And the Russians are sending it to other big markets out there. Then these guys cannot cover. And since these guys are going to tell us to go in the caves again, the Russians will have the rest of the world. All of it. Because we're not going to produce them because we want to save the planet. All right, according to Reuters, Russian oil and gas revenue is set to surge to $9.4 billion in June, or up roughly 50% from the $6 billion it took in from oil and gas sales in June of last year. That's a big boost for the Kremlin war machine, I would add, given that oil and gas revenues have made up as much as half of the nation's total revenue for the past 10 years. So, who are the baboons? Beep, beep, boo, 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 boo. Can I check your fleas? And you can do the same with me, right here. The increase of revenue has largely been spurred by declining subsidies to Russia's oil refineries, which fell $60 billion from last month. All right, but they increase production and whatever they do. All right, my friends, here it is. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just. See you later.